Welcome to another episode of Ask the Zamboni Experts. I'm your host, Marty Elliott. And today we have Shawn Mackay from the Leaside Arena, Head of Operations and Manager of the facility. Welcome, Shawn. Thanks for coming on board.
Thank you very much, Marty.
Let's talk about what you experienced last year, the Innovation Day 2024 in Edmonton, Alberta. Maybe you can share your experience with the audience, why you went, what you got out of it, and what you've applied to your facility and to your team of operators moving forward.
Yeah, no problem, Marty. Last year Edmonton was the first one that I attended. It was just kind of one of those things. The reason why I registered was, I get the notifications, the emails promoting it, and then one day I happened to have a slow afternoon and I kind of clicked on it and thought, well, hey, you know what, check it out. And as I work for a board-run arena, I had to present it to the board and seek their approval to allow me to go. And they had no issues with it from a professional development standpoint. And it was a great trip to head out there. Learned a lot. Like some of the things that I really enjoyed, I think the first speaker, if I can recall, on the Friday was I forget her name, but she's from Toronto Metropolitan University, working with Jet Ice on the the water sustainability and that. And as soon as she started speaking of it, it kind of resonated in my memory. I had actually received an email from her team about 2 days before I headed out to Edmonton, and I just hadn't had a chance to reply to it yet. And they, given our proximity to Toronto Metropolitan University, they wanted to come and kind of do a little touch base with us and see our best practices and that. So that was pretty. That was one of the first things I did when I returned home from Edmonton, which was, just learning the science of what they're trying to figure out there with Jet Ice.
Sorry. Yeah, let me interject on that, Shawn. You were in the audience listening to Stephanie, Dr. Stephanie, in reference to her presentation. And what did you take out of that you actually applied or understood what was going on in your own facility at the Leaside Memorial Gardens?
Well, the main one just from the kickoff was, and I've started actually doing this through a maintenance software that I've purchased, Sub-Zero, the water quality in that. And as my staff also manage a swimming pool next door to us. So a lot of them are quite adept to water chemistry and everything. And, at that time, I'd never really thought about, the hardness of the water, so on and so forth, and the effects that it could actually have on the ice and, how brittle it is and everything. So learning a lot of that and how they were kind of looking at different ways, potentially different paints that they might look into. We always just use Jet Ice anytime we paint. I don't bother with my staff doing it. I just look at it going, it's a lot easier to just bring them in for 6 hours that it takes them as opposed to my guys taking 2 days.
Right.
But yeah, from Stephanie's, I haven't heard back from them since about December, but I've been kind of trying to follow online whenever I can and been a little busy with wrapping up my season right now. But things like that were really interesting to kind of get in touch with, and you never think about it at first because sometimes you get spam emails and you don't recognize the email. And as soon as she started speaking, I'm going, wait a minute, I've heard of this. And so one of her colleagues, Stephanie didn't pop by, but one of her colleagues did. If I recall, she took a water sample from us. We reviewed because we don't dump our snow outside, we dump it in a pit. The differences in we're using just straight domestic hot water right out of the city. Now for as far as the rest of the conference or the Innovation Day, the reason why I really kind of pushed to go from the board aspect was, as our City of Toronto Arena, we're actually about to undergo a major capital project on half my building. And a lot of that is going to go to sustainability. We have some items set up, but they just, because of half my building being 50 plus years old, we haven't started using the proper heat sources to heat recovery. Embarking on this capital project now, I figured it's good to learn and try to get myself ahead on things that they're going to be covering and installing in our project, which is just amazing. And it was, between the heat recoveries, that Blatchford community in Edmonton, that's just mind-boggling how sustainable that whole community they're making. And the kind of ironic thing that I always took away from that was, they're making an entire community 100% sustainable in Alberta, of all provinces in the country. Our oil resources all come out of Alberta, northern Alberta and everything. And it was I'd happened to be talking to one of my daughter's hockey coaches, who's an engineer, who was actually invited to the Innovation Day but couldn't make it. And that was one of the things that him and I kind of chuckled about, going, of all provinces, of all cities to boot, that's going to go sustainable, it's the one closest to the oil fields in Canada, right?
Interesting. Let's talk a little bit about your facility, about your position, your operators. Maybe you can share with the audience as far as where you're located in Toronto, what your facility looks like, your ice resurfacers that you're operating at your facility. Talk about your staff.
Yeah, not a problem. So yeah, we're Leaside Memorial Community Gardens. We're located in the East York area of Toronto, so kind of midtown towards the east. We are a double pad facility. It was originally a single pad with a banquet hall attached to it, and then in 2012, the community fundraised some money and persuaded the city to purchase land to make an addition to it, to make a second pad. So currently the way we sit is our new pad we keep in 12 months a year, and our old pad, which this year is coming out after this weekend anyways, but this would be the time that we would take it out. Reason we take that out is there's no low E ceiling, there's no underfloor heating. That side of the building is 70 years old. So in the past, predating me, apparently, they tried to push the bounds as far as they could, and we've resulted in heaving. So we're in the middle of Toronto. I run with 5 operators. I firmly believe that out of all the 70 or 80 arenas in Toronto, that we are probably the busiest. We house 3 major groups. We house the Leaside Boys Hockey, Leaside Girls Hockey, and the Leaside Figure Skating Club, as well as 2 hockey camps that take up Christmases, March breaks. So through the primetime season, September till around this time, every day of the week, Monday to Friday, from 4 o'clock till 11 o'clock, we are slammed both pads. Saturdays and Sundays, we're about 7 a.m. till 10, 11 o'clock, each pad going. So I run on 5 operators. They're staggered. The earliest one's in at 5:30 in the morning. Generally, it's 3 shifts a day: 5:30 to 1:30, 1 to 9, and then 4 to 12. As well as I also provide at least one part-time, what we call a building attendant for them, and that's just to help them keep the building clean, help them with, if we got tight floods. Some of the guys aren't quite as experienced with having to deal with the nets and all that. They're great when they have a 15-minute window, but if we got back-to-back GTHL games, we got to get in and out of there quick, and then there's a second period flood or something happening on the other pad. So just have somebody to help shovel and push the nets out of the way. Operators that we have, because we're City of Toronto, we have City of Toronto staff. The 5 operators, I range from 20 years seniority and experience to 2 years. And I'd actually just added a staff member, replaced one who just started yesterday. He worked in arenas for the city. He'd been working at a different location for the city for about the past just over a year. So him starting last night was amazing, because we were pretty quiet last night, and it gave one of my more senior operators time to say, hey, let's get on the Zamboni and let's just do a couple of floods. And first thing I did this morning was, let's check the ice. Let's make sure we didn't damage anything. Let's make sure we didn't do, because again, with how busy we are, we always run into the same pains, creases, it's, but I've been fortunate. I got a good crew of staff here that actually care about the building. As I said, we're probably one of, if not the busiest building in the city. And I also take pride myself as the operations manager, as we're probably one of the cleanest city buildings as well, where
I can attest to that.
It's, I'm fortunate that all my staff take pride in this building, and that definitely helps. And I've been here for just a little over 3 years. I started, the board hired me January 2022. It was, my first day of work was the day before our last COVID lockdown. So that was kind of fun. I was kind of looking at the board going, I've been here 8 hours. I don't really know what I'm going to have the guys do tomorrow. And, but we figured it out and worked with it. It was actually a good benefit to me, because it gave me a month to familiarize myself with the building in the arena.
Sure.
So,
were you an operator in the city of Toronto at other facilities before taking on this role?
prior to me managing this building, ironically, I originally spent the majority of my adult career as a mechanic with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Oh, no kidding.
And then spent about 13 years there. Great time working on all the turf machine and all that, and met my wife there, everything. And then I left there because I got a job offer at a private club here in Toronto, which had 2 ice pads, a figure skating rink, and a curling rink. And that's where I started my learning on refrigeration. That particular club does not use Zamboni, but that's where I learned how to flood ice. And then through COVID, I had to, there was downsizes everywhere. And then thankfully the board, it was actually through that social networking LinkedIn that I got found by the board, and they reached out to me, and I've been here ever since. And
fantastic.
I don't spend too much time on the Zambonis just because, staff and that, but I do get out every once in a while just for, especially when I first started. I said, well, hey, I've never really driven a Zamboni ice resurfacer, driven a Zamboni grasshopper, but I'd never driven a Zamboni ice resurfacer. So
a shout out to the grasshopper. We actually have one at our facility in Brantford. And that one we have at our facility in Brantford, if I'm not mistaken, that's the one you worked on that came out of formerly the Sky Dome, now Rogers Center. But the grasshopper. So that was our founder, Frank Zamboni. That was one of his initiatives, inventing that. So you started coming out as a mechanic. Have you taken advantage of some of the industry educational opportunities that are available through our OFRA, Ontario Recreation Facility Association?
Absolutely. We are a member of the OFRA. As I said, I started here in 2022. So in fall of 2022, I went to, their safety week that they held out in Mississauga, Ontario. Day one, all about the refrigeration safety regarding, especially, it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was the anniversary of the Fernie incident. And then I did my basic arena refrigeration there. I think I've taken in total about 5 courses so far from the OFRA. I'm on my last step to just send in my application for my certified ice technician. And then I plan on moving on to continue with the certified recreation facility professional designation will be my next one.
CRFM.
Yeah. The past 2 years, 24 and this year, my professional development has been focused on the innovation days. And again, with Edmonton, I think I registered in September, and it was kind of, I haven't really had time to get into any development yet. And so I was able to sell that. And once I got the invitation for this year, I was wondering about it. I'm going, am I going to be able to sell Philadelphia to the board? And they were all on board with it. They said, yes, go for it, especially with our capital project coming. And I'm going, there's not going to be enough time for me to not learn enough. And,
Yeah, I mean, strongly recommend turning the recorder on during the Innovation 2025 in Philadelphia. Specifically, what you're speaking to, Shawn, going through the renovation that your facility is going through. Any other courses that you attended, any talk tos that you attended in last year's event in Edmonton that you want to speak to as far as different courses?
So on the Thursday night, the Wednesday night, the first night when they had the breakout courses, I attended the I'm actually just looking at the glass now, the Guntner condenser tower technologies. And it was great to learn about things like that. Like the one hiccup that I have where, as much as I loved that presentation, us being a City of Toronto building, I don't have a lot of say on what equipment is being installed, but it was still very interesting to learn that. The one that really popped out to me was the automation one from what's his name, Kyle down in Los Angeles.
Yeah, Kyle Lemke.
Yep, and learning that and seeing the upgrades that Simcoe has done with that thermal. Like I wish I would be able to sell that on a municipal level to say, hey, I could put thermal cameras in here and I could see all my hot spots. And I think that's a little stretch for a municipal arena, but I do thrive to go for best in class. But that was really interesting. And when he showed the demo up on the screen of them doing a flood in between the period, and then you can kind of see the heat on the ice, and then as the ice started turning blue, then all of a sudden you see all the dots coming out, all the guys coming out and skating, and I was like, wow, this is really really intense. And then even when we did the tour of Rogers Place and we were down in their refrigeration room and talking to their operators and listening to like what they have to go through on a game day. And even thinking about Edmonton, when you think about like where the Innovation Day was held in that lobby, and then I think back to the season prior when Edmonton made it all the way till June into the Stanley Cup final, I can only imagine what they were going through trying to keep that building cool. Like, I mean,
Well, they have some great innovation there, and I'm sure that Matt Messer had spoken to you folks that did the tour about his actual humidity sprinkler system up top. Did he speak to that?
he spoke to it a bit. I think I was a little too far back in the tour. I was trying to kind of catch up and catch it, and because
Yeah, and to comprehend and deal with the humidity issues and bringing more AC into the building. That's one of the innovations that Rogers Place put into the facility to overcome those issues, if you will, when it came to humidity. Talking about 2025 Innovation Day in Philadelphia coming up this year, later in October, I believe it is. What courses, Shawn, did you sign up for? What are you interested in? What do you hope to take from Innovation Day 2025?
I actually haven't had a chance to sign up for the courses yet because I haven't looked at the website in the past couple of weeks, and wasn't anything popped up yet. What I'm looking forward to getting from this year is once I see the courses, but a lot more just in depth on like learning more about the automation dynamics, because that is part of our project. They're going to upgrade part of our automation system for the arena, as well as even from building standpoints, as we're getting our as part of our project is updating and renewing our BAS system, our current one, which is barely working. And then in particular, learning a lot more about like the heat recovery strategies, and now whether or not there's people speaking to it or not. But what I learned at Edmonton is if the topic's not covered by a speaker, you can walk 10 minutes and within 10 minutes, you can find somebody that will have ideas of what you're talking about and what you're looking for. And because like I said, so far we haven't been using the heat recovery just because of our older system on the old side, but we are planning on introducing it. And so like one of the things as I'm coming into this capital project and then going to be coming out of it, as my colleague and I here at Leaside, we've been preparing budgets for the board and that. And, I've been saying, well, when we go into 26, we're planning on keeping both ice pads going all year round. I can't foresee what that's going to do to my electrical bill. However, when we start getting with the heat recovery and properly using that, at least that utility should be able to bring us down a bit from our natural gas resources.
Right.
So learning things like that, especially, the Philadelphia is in October. We're slated to be completed in January. As much knowledge so I can hit the ground running once the buildings turn back over to me. And then continued networking. I mean, it was great to meet everybody. Like I said, as soon as I logged on today and I saw you, I thought, yeah, I remember you. And because I am a firm believer on networking. I mean, Simcoe's amazing here, and I met some more people from Simcoe in Edmonton that I had never met, that I'd actually heard of some of them, guys like Richard Poole and all them, and then getting to know them. Athletica, I had actually been out to Athletica last June. They had a seminar out there on their dasherboard technologies, and got to meet a couple of the guys in Edmonton. They've actually been awarded our contract here at Leaside. So I've been continually touching base with Mark out there in Athletica. So continued networking, and it's I think sometimes what I found too out there was, as I've only been here for 3 years and I only did a couple of years in refrigeration a few years before, you're thinking, oh, I don't really know many people. Spending the 3 days there, I had actually realized that I ran into at least a dozen people that I'd already known. And some of them I was expecting to run into, like, I'd met Greg Dean before and all that. And so running into him, but, I ran into the guy that, the project manager from Simcoe that's been overseeing most of the city projects. So it was like, hey, and so it's great to network and meet people. And, it's amazing. The more you talk to people, the more you realize that how many arenas run into the same struggles.
Yeah, why don't you touch base on that? Maybe top 3 topics. You talked about networking with your audience out at the Innovation Day in Edmonton when you were leaving different speaking engagements and talking to your networks. What kind of feedback were you guys getting from each other that was improving your operation or daily operation with your staff?
a lot of it, like the one big problem, and I already mentioned it earlier, that, when I first started here, because the last building that I managed wasn't a hockey arena, it was a figure skating arena. So we never had paint. We never had to deal with any of that. The curling rink,
Right.
well, you're not shaving out creases in the curling rink. And the creases always drove me a little insane. And then, whether it was in Edmonton talking to guys from, Saskatchewan or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, pretty much, dump a bucket of water on the ice before you walk out the door at the end of the night. And I'm going, so this is not just an us problem that we're having. Same thing with, learning a bit more about how they set temperatures for different times of day. We have a hard time where we can't make too many adjustments because, I know figure skaters should go a little bit softer on the ice. However, I got 3 hours of figure skating and then I got 4 hours of GTHL AA hockey coming right in after it. It's kind of hard for me to soften it for the figure skaters and then harden it back up for them. Unfortunately, I only run 100 horsepower on each side, so it's very hard to recover from it, especially certain times of year. But yeah, just listening to different problems and like, even with trainings, even one person I was talking to, we were talking about, puck marks on glass. How do you get that out of there? And and different ideas with that. So when do you guys try to do your glass cleaning and trying to get ideas of their scheduling and how they work? Because I know here in the GTA, a lot of arenas are different. Like I know one municipality, they do predominantly all their ice maintenance at the end of the night. And we do ours predominantly during the day until summertime when our daytimes are jammed up with hockey camps. Then we try to do bits at night and then on the weekends. So it's always interesting to see and hear the struggles that everybody else runs through. And it always, as a manager, it always makes you come out feeling a little bit better. You're like, okay, I'm not missing something here. This is everybody that we're all kind of in this together. So
Right. Yeah. So you spoke about the renovation that's going on at your facility right now. Let's talk about your IR, your ice resurfacer. What presently are you operating at your facility right now, Shawn?
Currently, we have a Zamboni 446. The propane model. I have two of them. I have one that's a backup that we keep just in case if we have any maintenance or anything. We are moving to a Zamboni 450 here at Leaside. Because of the way that our old arena was designed when they did the expansion, I can only go with the 400 models because our old rink has a guillotine door and it just doesn't quite get high enough. I'm about 6'1" and I have to duck my head down if I'm on the Zamboni. So the thought of going up to the 550 or whatever for the electric, because the city's pretty much mandated us to go electric, which is fantastic. I do have to use the smaller units. And
we actually, Scott Douglas and myself did demonstrations for the city going back over 2 years ago with both the 450 model that you're receiving, lithium ion, and the 650 model lithium ion. And some arenas, due to the circumstances of the footprint and their openings and that, such as what you're dealing with, can only handle due to the size of the IR 450, and some can manage the 650 due to height restrictions. They're not as limited as what you would be at Leaside. So that's interesting. Yeah, you're going to get your new machine. I believe that's going to come before the beginning of the new season. When do you put your ice in, Shawn, by the way?
Well, the ice, so when we start our season in September, I'm only going to be running one pad. That ice is staying in. The older pad that we have, what we call our pad B, we're planning, normally it would be September, end of August, we put the ice in. This year we're putting it in the beginning of January because of our capital project. That's about the timeline that we're getting. It's going to be a tight timeline. Like technically the project starts Monday. So my guys are going to be in Monday. Sunday nights are coming in. They're going to start bringing the temperatures up in the plant and start shaving the ice down. And we figure by the end of day Tuesday, we should have all our ice out. And so normally it would be September, we'd be putting the old ice back in, but right now it's going to be January.
What tools are you sharing with your staff that you have available to you that from a training aspect that your operators can improve and raise the bar on their skill sets when it comes to operating a Zamboni?
With the Zamboni, it's a lot of it is what I'll try to do is I'll try to bring some of my more junior guys in a little earlier for my most senior guys, just get them pointers and everything. what there's times when I find things online where I will, pass it along to the guys, just because anything I find online, even if it's things such as, the OFRA's facility forum magazine that comes in, that comes in the mail. I get it on my desk. I go through it, and then as soon as I'm done reading it, it goes out in the back, and the guys can read it. With regards to like technologies and that, normally every couple of months, like for our refrigeration plant, I go in every day and just check in on their logs, but I walk through with them every once in a while, and all right, let's just do a refresher. Same thing with driving the Zamboni. It's they don't like to be watched, but sometimes I poke my head out and have a watch at them, and just to make sure they're not doing anything crazy out there. Or maybe I can just say, hey, guys, you noticed one of our blue lines is getting a little bright. Maybe what are we going to do there? And trying to educate sometimes, because a lot of people's, when they start to see bright paint, their natural reaction is, I'm going to dump more water right there, even if it's from the Zamboni. And trying to educate on, well, we really have to have an idea of how thick we are there before you just decide to dump hot water on it, because we've run into that before where, you get too low, you put the hot water down, it actually is fighting against you at that point. So with working with, again, Zach at Sub-Zero, since about November, at least once a week, I've been doing ice measurements. Ideally, I do it twice a week. Yeah, I'll come in on a Monday, I'll head out there, do the 29 points on each pad, and then what I do is I print it out for the guys, and then I review it with them when I put it down. I say, okay, guys, so here's what we're looking at. We look at this area, look at this area. And there has been times, I think there was one time where I said I did it on a Monday or Tuesday, then I did it on the Friday. And I kind of looked at a couple of them and went, well, how come we were lower on Friday? I said, the point why I did it on Monday or Tuesday, whatever day I did it, was to give you guys the tools that you guys needed to see the ice and be where we needed to be. And the reason why a lot of times I do it on the Mondays and the Fridays is because Monday's coming out of the weekend. As I mentioned earlier, we are busy. And then, all right, so this is, for lack of a better term, the damage that was done over the weekend. Now we got 4 days to build it back up before we get into our busy time, our crazy busy time. And then ORFA, I've had most of my staff, especially my operators, have all gone out to ORFA, at least the basic refrigeration training. I got one guy that's done just about every ORFA course throughout the past 15 years that he could. He's a certified ice technician, everything. So, because for me, training is always, dealing with some of my staff, some of them aren't too interested in training. I've had one staff member in the past that thought, well, I know everything. And I said, well, nobody knows everything. And, and it was my more senior guy who I lean on incredibly here. He turned around and he was like, I've been here 15 years and I'm still learning things. He's like, it doesn't.
Yeah. And in this industry, and I'm sure, Shawn, you can appreciate this, we are constantly learning. I still learn to this day as we speak. I learned from you what you're sharing. And let me share this with you and the audience that's listening to the podcast. If you go to the Resource Center on Zamboni.com, you can go to the owner's area and find out all the information you need about your specific model, from parts list to service manual to operating instructions to maintenance schedule, to be able to provide the training and to bring your operators to the next level, raising their bar, which is really important as we try to get better at what we do. So I know you've already signed up for Innovation Day 2025 in Philadelphia. Maybe you can share with the audience what and why they should consider looking at attending this coming event this October for the Innovation Day in Philly. Maybe you can share with the audience why they should attend.
Absolutely. Like I said, last year, Edmonton's was my first one, and it was kind of, well, hey, let's see what this is. And, like I said, the knowledge that you can pick up, I haven't seen what the seminars are yet, but, like I said, the dehumidification strategies, the one I didn't get into last year in Edmonton, which I don't know if there'll be one in Philly, was presented by Zamboni, best practices, etc. For flooding.
You missed my presentation, Shawn. Shame on you.
I missed it.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, because when I was signing up for it again, because I didn't sign up till the end of September, I was when I clicked on that one, it said, "Oh, all full," and I went, "Oh, okay." And then as I was out there, I realized, well, all full means one thing, but I think the Zamboni one would have been a little bit different because you guys did that at Rogers Place. So I don't know if because I know the automation one was pretty much jammed to the gills in that room with Kyle.
Yeah.
Hopefully they have something along the lines of that this year again.
Yeah, this year we're going to be able to have on ice practical where we didn't and we weren't able to last year due to the playoffs and what was going on with the facility in Edmonton. But this year we will have, as far as our presentations with Zamboni and the audience, we'll have on ice practical involved for the audience to watch and listen to. Chris, let me introduce Chris Fish, one of my colleagues. Chris, any questions that you want to ask Shawn?
I don't have any questions, but I do really appreciate everything he was saying. It was unfortunate that you did miss our session. We were standing room only, but we would have always had room for one more.
Well, I'll look forward to it.
We did get a lot of people that decided that last minute all of a sudden. So it got to the point where it was standing room only.
Okay.
Right on. We're all looking forward to an Innovation Day. It takes place this October, and anyone who wants more information, go to Zamboni.com and their link on our web landing page. So it'll take you to the Innovation Day for info and registration. And I just want to take the opportunity to thank Shawn. Shawn, thank you for joining me today in this podcast. And I want to thank everybody listening. This is Marty Elliott, your host, and we both wish you an ice day.